Hi everyone, my name is Kate Gibbings and I'm the Education Librarian at UIT. In this video I'm going to be talking about two things. The first is how a librarian can help students through the information seeking process. You probably know that if you're looking for a book or an article, you can ask me for assistance, but I want to show you other ways that a librarian can help you through the research process. And secondly, we're going to look at the difference between scholarly and popular resources, which is something that you'll need to know in order to do academic research. So first, to give you a little bit of context, I'm going to talk about some of the things that I do as a librarian in a university. I select resources, especially books, and I try to make those resources as accessible as possible. So that's particularly online. I create guides for different subjects and topics. This guide, for example, is on problem-based learning, and it recommends books, articles, and websites for that topic. I manage the Education Library website, which links to search tools, guides, tutorials, and things like that. And most importantly for this video, I support research and information literacy. So I've answered questions and consulted with students through email, chat, and video conference, over the phone and in person, and through in-class instruction. Now let's take a look at the information seeking process. The stages are define, access, evaluate, integrate, and communicate. In the first step, you're getting an overview of your research topic and trying to define your research question. As an example, let's say that the broad topic is online learning and student success. You may not know a lot about this topic. You may need a big picture view of it. It can be helpful to do some background reading. A librarian can help you find sources that will give you an overview. For example, an encyclopedia or a handbook. You might also start with a book that covers the broad topic area. By the way, both of these are available in ebook form. Then you may want to brainstorm keywords. These will be helpful later when you're ready to search. Your keywords will probably start out broad with terms like online learning or skills, and end up a little bit more specific. For example, you might specify that you're researching not just online learning, but adult online learning. And maybe you're particularly interested in how time management affects student success. The narrowed down research question is now, what strategies can adult online learners use to manage their time? Now it's time to access information sources. A librarian can help you find books and ebooks, articles, websites, and other sources. They can help you search for books in the catalog, articles in databases, and if you're looking for different types of resources on a specific topic, like education, try the library's subject guides. If UIT doesn't have the book or article you need, keep in mind that the library may be able to help you access the resource through another university. Librarians can help you develop a search strategy that will retrieve the best resources for your particular assignment. As you gather resources, you'll need to evaluate them. In the course you're in, you learn criteria for evaluating sources. For example, is the author trustworthy? Is the source unbiased? Is the source current enough for your needs? This website isn't appropriate for most academic assignments, but this journal article is. We'll discuss scholarly sources more in a minute. If you're unsure, a librarian can help you evaluate sources and find ones that meet all the criteria. At the integrate stage, you're analyzing and synthesizing the information you found. You may ask yourself, do you have enough sources? Have you found sources from different perspectives? And are you ready to analyze and draw your own conclusions? If not, you may need to go back to one of the earlier stages. Finally, it's time to communicate your research. Part of communication is giving credit to the sources you've used or citing them. Here's an example of what a direct quotation might look like in a research paper. The library has its own online quick guides as well as published citation manuals, and you can also ask us for help. We can also help with copyright questions. What if you want to share a scholarly article with your group or use internet images in your presentation? We can help you find and share resources without breaking copyright law. Now that we've talked about the information-seeking process, let's move on to scholarly and popular resources. First, popular sources. They include resources like magazines and newspapers. They're written for a general audience, not researchers or experts. They're usually written by journalists who are generally not experts on the topic they're covering. This article is about a scientific study on memory. Popular sources usually cover the topic broadly without going into great detail. They can include the writer's opinion without research-based evidence to back it up, and they use simpler terminology. Finally, the article isn't reviewed by a group of experts in the field. The author writes it, an editor probably reads it over, and the article gets published. Let's compare scholarly sources. They're written for an academic or expert audience. The author or authors are experts on the topic. They usually have credentials like PhDs or other degrees. They cover the topic in great detail, and they make complex arguments. And most importantly, they're usually peer-reviewed. If an article is peer-reviewed, the author writes it, and then different experts read the article. They decide whether the research was done properly and whether the article is of high quality. If the article is approved by these peers, it gets published. You may be required to use peer-reviewed articles for an assignment. One way to identify them is to look for a peer-reviewed box in the database you use. If you check it off, you'll get peer-reviewed articles only. So this brings me to the end of the video. Please feel free to contact me with any questions that you have. I've included my email address here, as well as the library website and the Education Library Branch website.